Now, I mentioned earlier that internal tables are made up of a table body and either a header line or a work area. Well, from now on, just assume we are talking about the newer style internal table, and that's an internal table with a work area. As a nice simple example, an internal table can be made up of just a number of individual fields that correspond to different columns of a table. Just like when you created the data dictionary table, you created the individual fields. And if you recall, when we set up that table, we also identified key fields. Well, the same thing can apply for internal tables, but we have a little bit more flexibility. When we declared our table in the ABAP dictionary, we had to use key fields to uniquely identify every record in the table. Well, internal tables are a little bit different. As well as identifying unique records, you can also specify a non-unique key. This allows us to store any number of non-unique records. So what I mean is, a unique key will specify an individual record in our table that can only appear once. But a non-unique key allows us to have any number of duplicate records we want. The differences don't just stop there. We can define different types of internal tables too, and this is mainly so we can access our data in the most efficient manner possible. What I mean is really fast. So first of all, we have standard tables. Now, a standard table gives us the option of accessing the records using a table key or an index. I'll show you how to define table keys and indexes in a little while. When we access records using a key in a standard table, the larger the internal table is, the longer it will take to read the records we want. And this is why we have the option of using a table index. Standard tables don't give the option of defining a unique key, which results in the possibility of having identical lines appearing many times throughout your table. Now, as I just mentioned previously, we don't have to have unique records in our table. So a standard table can hold any number of records that have identical lines. Now, although accessing records using a table key can take a fair amount of time with a standard table with lots of records, there is a flip side in that a standard table can be filled with records very quickly, because the system doesn't have to check the table key for any duplicate records. And you'll find that when looking at programs and creating your own, standard tables are really easy to define and work with, and you will see that they are the most often used table type within SAP system programs. Now, next up, we come to sorted tables. Now, as you might guess, with a sorted table, we can define a unique key. This means we can force all records to be unique in the internal table, thus removing any duplication of records. And like a standard table, we can access records of a sorted table using the table key or using the table index. Another commonality with standard tables is that you can use the table key to find records. Now, in standard tables, I mentioned this can be quite slow the bigger your table gets. Well, the same sort of thing applies with sorted tables, but I must say the performance is a lot better. But it's not the best we can get. Now, it is preferable to use a sorted table over a standard table. One, because of the increased speed in accessing records, but also because a sorted table sorts your records into a specific sequence. It gives you a performance increase when accessing the data. Now, the final internal table I want to discuss is a hashed table. And hash tables do differ from standard and sorted tables in that you do not access the records of a hash table using an index. You will only use a unique key. Hashed tables are normally the preferred internal table when it comes to speed. Now, this isn't always the case, but generally it is. When you think your internal table is going to get quite large, a hash table normally gives you the best bang for your buck. And I recommend you use hash tables whenever you think you're going to have large internal tables. See, these types of tables use what's known as a special hash algorithm to ensure the response times of reading records are maintained no matter how many rows of data your table contains. They really are super fast. Now, saying that, you will find that standard tables and sorted tables are used way more in SAP programs than hashed tables. And because of that reason, we'll stick with standard and sorted tables going forward.